In this video, I'm going to show you how I upgraded this worn out Razor MX500 to look like this for around $400. It does 35 miles an hour. It's a great build if you're on a budget, and it has about a 12-mile range. Now you can go faster and you can build bigger, but that's all going to cost you well over $1,000. So the same build applies to an MX650, an SX500, a Razor RSF 650, and an Indian. So before we get into the details, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is start to take the plastics off this bike. So I'm going to go in here, take that off, take those bolts off, remove the plastics from the back, remove the covers here, some of the covers are already removed, and get into this bike and remove the old batteries. Alright, got the bike stripped down, cleaning the frame up. Had to put a new back tire on this. I have another video that shows you how to mount these tires nice and easy. Get that mounted, and then start putting things back together. Before I install any of this into the bike, I want to do a bench test of the entire drivetrain. So I got the motor, controller, the throttle that came with the kit. I have this junction box. I have the 48 volt, 14 amp hour battery. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect everything and I'm going to bench test it here. I also have these two little jumper cables or wires you can see here, and those will be used to turn the bike on and off. And then I'll have another one to be able to test the high, medium, and low speed. Alright, so let's get into this. The first thing I'm going to do is connect everything to the junction box. It's pretty easy. You have off the motor, you have blue, yellow, green. I'm going to find those same color wires on the controller, and I'm going to wire everything into the junction box. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to take green, yellow, blue. I'll put those on the terminal. Then I'm going to do the same thing off the controller. Okay, you see that? Green goes to green, yellow to yellow, blue to blue. Then I'm just going to put the top on that. So that is hooked up and ready to go. The next thing I'm going to do is hook up the motor and hall sensor. That's pretty easy. This is a 5-pin connector or 6-pin, depending on, and then I'm going to connect it to the only harness that looks like that on the controller. So now I got the motor connected to the controller. Now I have the stock throttle that came with the kit. I am going to install this nice 3-speed throttle with the voltmeter because I like to be able to adjust the speed and see my voltage while I'm riding. But in the meantime, let's first get this kit vetted and make sure it works. So then you're going to look for the throttle, which is here. And that is a plug and play. Now you don't need that 3-speed throttle if you don't want it. You can utilize this one and then wire the 3-speed to always be in high mode. So you can do that. So I have everything connected here. And now I'm going to fish out the red and black wires. This is the power wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wire the red and black wires from the T connector that came with the battery. And I'm going to wire those temporarily to each other. And then the last thing I'm going to do is plug in the battery. So let's get that done. Now this is just a temporary setup. Alright, I got the red and black wire taped to the controller. I got the T connector, so everything is energized. Doesn't work because you need to hook up the on-off switch. So to trick it, you're going to use this little wire like you see here, and you're going to go down here to the E-lock port. I found the E-lock here. What I'm going to do is put a little jumper. Going to jam those wires in there like such. Now the E-lock is activated. There you go. The motor is running. Perfect, everything works great. All right, in order to test the 3-speed, what you're gonna need is this little jumper wire right here. Now, without anything, the motor is in medium. It might actually be in high, I'm not sure. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test it, because some of these kits, they come wired differently with this 3-speed. So it's a little bit of a trial and error. So let's hear it. All right, it does sound like it's high as the default. Maybe they changed it since the last time I got this kit. So I'm gonna do yellow to black. Let's see what that does. That's definitely low, you can hear it. So that's low speed. Okay. So now I'm gonna move. I'm gonna go yellow to blue. Let's see what that does. That sounds like high speed. Let's try blue to black. That sounds like medium. Okay. So now if I take it back off. So it sounds like the default is high now. The last kit I did a couple years ago with the same kit, the default was medium. Anyhow, in order to hook up this 3-speed throttle, what I'm gonna do is, it's pretty easy. What you wanna do is, this yellow or power cable hooks up to the indicator wire on these harnesses. Now, the green wire here, this is the throttle. So that's gonna get wired to the 3-speed throttle. What I might do is, it's pretty easy. The red and the black, and then what I'm gonna do is use this wire harness with this controller, or use the wire harness off the throttle and splice the wires in so I can use that connector. Now, the hard thing is, you're gonna have to use some trial and error hooking up the 3-speed throttle to get it to switch between the different speeds. So I'll get into that next, but I know this kit works and everything is operational. So now what I'm gonna do is take this apart. The first thing you wanna do is de-energize the system, unhook the T-connector so the whole system is de-energized and you're not going to get shocked. And then what I'm going to do is use a hacksaw and cut this mount off so when I mount it in the frame. I'm also going to have to remove 2 of these screws, drill this out to recess these 2 screws so it fits in the frame. But those 2 things are pretty simple. Okay, I removed the bracket from the motor. I'm gonna go here and polish that up with a file, get rid of those markings, and then I'm gonna drill out those few bolts. All right, what you're looking here is the back of the motor. Now you can see I drilled and recessed that screw. I gotta take this screw out, take it out, take off about 1/8 of an inch, and then drill and recess the back of the motor so it will slide in the frame. All right, I got the motor mounted into the frame and it's sitting nice. Now, the motor comes with a different type of sprocket. I think this is the TF8. Some people run that type of chain. I'm gonna run the stock chain. I did order a new chain. It's a 25H, so it's heavy duty linkages. And what I'm gonna do is, this is the sprocket. This is the sprocket that came off the stock motor. I also have a 12 tooth and 13 tooth. So I'm gonna use the 13 tooth. It saves tires and it gives me higher end speed, but the 13 tooth will not probably allow you to do wheelies with this bike. You probably want to stick with the 11 tooth. You'll get about 32, 33 miles an hour, maybe top speed. With the 13 tooth, I can definitely get to 35 miles an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 12 millimeter socket. It's reverse thread, so what you want to do is set to like you're tightening the bolt. So what I'm going to do is put that on there, hit it real quick. See, it comes right off nicely. Yep, reverse thread. Set that down like that. All right. sometimes what you're going to have to do, get a little pry bar like this. Also use a puller tool. Work its way around. There we go. Came off. That's the old sprocket. Put that in my drawer. This is the 13-tooth motor sprocket. So what I'm going to do is, so when I'm putting a little coating of anti-seize on this, so when I want to take it off and replace it, I can do so really easily. See, that slides on there like such. Put a little bit on the threads there. Remember, this is reverse threads. Turn that to the opposite, like I'm loosening it. And goes on there nice. Tighten that up nice. Sometimes I put a little piece, block of wood in here to hold it. All right. So now, I can now install the chain tensioner, but you can see that that chain sits on there nice. All right. So I'm going to get the chain tensioner, install that. Then I gotta put the new rear wheel on, and I'm good to go. All right, what I got here is the solder and seal connectors. I got the red and black wire coming from the controller. This is the T connector from the battery. What I'm gonna do is use the solder and seal connectors. You could use butt connectors, but these are nice because they're weatherproof and you get very little resistant drop because they're soldered. So I just hit it with the heat gun like this really quick. It shrinks up nicely, and then I can then plug in the battery. All right, so what we're gonna do is mount the battery into the frame. I wrapped the battery in some thin foam, protected the end. I also used the foam that the battery came in and I cut it down. That's gonna slide in here like that. What I did do is I used a pair of pliers and I bent the screw or the old battery attachments down, bent them down and out of the way just to give it some extra protection. I also bent the tray up. I put a screwdriver in there, bent the tray up, and I got these Velcro straps. That's what's going to hold the battery down. I'm able to slide them in underneath the tray. It doesn't go underneath the frame, but it goes underneath the tray between the frame, nice and secure in there. What I'm going to do for good measure also, I'm going to put a little bit of tape over those bolts. You can see I put a piece of foam in the tray to support it. That also came with the battery that it was shipped in. It's perfect thickness. So I got that in there like such. All right. So the battery is going like this. What I'm thinking about doing is, see the charge port? The charge port goes to the back, so I could charge the battery directly like this, or I could charge it through the controller and using the stock battery port or the stock charge port, but I need to get an extra charger. But nonetheless, I'm going to put the cords to the back like such. I'm going to slide that battery in there. You can see I got it slid forward. I put some foam here to protect it from rubbing on the frame. You definitely don't want lithium batteries rubbing metal. That's what causes a fire. Now I'm going to take these straps, feed them through like this, then cinch that up. That. All right, that one's nice and secure. I'm going to do the same thing with this back one. Now, that battery when this thing's bouncing around, is not going to go anywhere. I can also put a little piece of foam. There's about a 1/2 inch space between the upper tray. Maybe I'll slide a little piece of foam in there and tape it in place. But now the battery's ready to go. Got this connected. That can easily connect like that. And now I'll work on all the peripherals and controls. What I'm gonna do here is hook up this 3-speed throttle with a voltmeter. Now what I did was I pulled the ends of all the... Alright, after monkeying around with this, I finally got the combo that works. So I have the blue going to the brown, the black going to the white, the yellow going to the blue of the throttle. Now things may change. This was not the same setup as the kit I did 18 months ago, so you're just gonna have to play with it. But what I have now is, you can see that is low, and then you go to high. All right, I got everything connected and the throttle is working. The 3-speed throttle, it's connected. One thing I recommend, I do like these connectors. There's a nice kit they sell, but I don't have the crimper, so I used some fishing pliers. It was not pretty, so I recommend getting the crimper with the kit of these connectors. I'll have that in the description below. But I did get it all wired up. It's nice here. I got the throttle cable, the 3 wires here, the 3-speed throttle here, and then the yellow wire coming from the throttle is going over here to that orange indicator light. I'm using these quick lever connectors because the red and black wire from here are going to a step-down transformer. So I spliced it in here. You can see it's running 53 volts. So let's now test it. All right. So that's high, medium, low. So low, medium, high. So, okay, in order to put the heat sink on, I had to take the wheel off real quick. So I'm gonna put some soap on here, put a little soap on the motor so it slides on nicely. All right, I'm gonna install the rear wheel assembly. I have a brand new tire on this. I installed a new brake rotor. This is a 2mm thick rotor with a 48mm center bolt pattern. The product is linked in the description below. You need these rotors to go with the hydraulic brakes. The chain goes on this side, so I'm gonna install the rear wheel. I got my axle here, my 19mm wrench. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide the axle into the wheel like such. I'm gonna make sure that I install the top hat. This little washer, the brim of the top hat goes outward against the frame. Obviously brake rotor on this side, chain on that side. I'm gonna go ahead and put the chain on. I don't have the spring for the chain tensioner on, so I'm not fighting that. And then what I'm gonna do is install the wheel. All right, slide that over. Put the washer on the outside, and then install the nut. All right, wheel is nice and tight. Now when I go to put the brake rotor on here, I may need to come back and adjust it or put a little washer in there. But for right now, it is sitting nicely, and I'm gonna install the chain and chain tensioner. So I'm gonna slide that over. I got a 13 tooth motor sprocket on a new chain, so it's kind of tight. What I'm going to do here is install the front wheel. I have the 160 millimeter diameter rotor that's 2 millimeters wide. This works with the hydraulic brakes, 48 millimeter bolt pattern that is going to go on the far side. I have the axle bolt with the washer, and then the spacer. The spacer, the brim of the top hat, you want to face outward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this on. Get this lined up. Sometimes you got to get a screwdriver to align that bushing that's in the center of the wheel. There we go. Hop through. What I'm going to do is bring this back just a smidge. I'm going to put this spacer on there with the brim outside. Then I'm going to push it through. There we go. The wheel is on. Nut and put it on this side like such. Then use a 16 millimeter and 14 millimeter wrench to tighten this all down. Wheels on there nice. All right, now I'm going to go into installing the hydraulic brakes. These are the hydraulic brakes I ordered. I ordered Zoom before, but it came with these, but they're all set to go. Don't remove the spacer until the last thing, but what you want to do is, these hydraulic brakes are already set up with oil, so it's kind of really nice. You just simply bolt on. What I found is you may have to change or put a little washer in to offset it to get it to align with the rotor on the wheel, but you can also put a little spacer sometimes on the wheel to move it or bias it to one side or the other. So, all right, in order to install this front hydraulic brake, it's all set up with the oil. So what I'm gonna do is, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to put on the headlight switch. This is the headlight switch I chose. You can choose different ones. I wish this was a little longer cable, but I'm going to slide that on like such. Put the front brake on. This is going to come down. And I'm going to feed this, I believe, through the frame. Like that. And then I'm going to attach it on the wheel here. Alright, in order to install these brakes, what you're going to do is pull out this plastic insert that holds the pressure in. Then what you're going to do is slide it over the caliper, line up the bolts, the 2 bolts that come with it, tighten all this down. And then the last thing you want to do, you want to tighten these bolts up to the frame. Since that is not changing, what you want to do is see where this aligns and then tighten up these 2 bolts that align the caliper. Alright, upon further inspection, I found that the bottom bolt was just touching the rotor. So what I did was went and found a washer just to give it a little bit of space, and now I'm going to reinstall the bottom. These bolts here have a little bit of float in and out, so what you want to do is line up the pads so they're kind of in the middle. Then that way the brake pads be lined up. All right, so put that on. It's okay if they rub a little bit, because after the first ride, see, it rubs a little bit, but overall not too bad. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I zip tie it here, keep it away from the wheel. Maybe even over here. I'll try when I go to put the plastics on. But right now I got that brake installed nicely, see? Awesome. All right, in order to install the rear brake, what I'm gonna do is it goes on this side. So what I'm gonna do is remove the throttle, loosen that up. Just gonna set that to the side. I'm gonna loosen the clamp, slide it on like such. Could put the throttle back on, just to see how everything fits. So that throttle fits like this. The lever hits a little bit, so you're gonna have to push it back a smidge. I think I'm gonna route it through this side of the frame. I wanna route it through the frame. I could undo this and slide it through that brake cable and holder in here, but then I gotta re-bleed the brakes and I really don't feel like doing that. But I am gonna slide it through here like such, under like that. Not too bad. There's a little extra slack here, but I'm gonna probably zip tie it up in here. I can hide that in the frame. And then it's a similar situation. What you wanna do is pull out that plastic tab, slide it over the brakes, and then install. You're going to install the frame bolts. I'm going to take this out, put a washer on it. Then what I'm going to do is adjust the float and tighten the other bolts down, and then I'll be good to go with that rear brake. All right, in order to replace this grip with the matching side, I like these rubber grips. They're Scott grips. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a razor blade. I'm gonna cut this off. I hate these metal end tips because anytime they get ding or dent, see that? Cut it like that. Then I'm gonna rip this off. The metal part's hard to get off. It's like foil. I think you just keep working at it like this. Let's test these brakes. Nice. What I got here is Scott grips. These are nice and squishy enough to fit over the throttle. What you're gonna do is grab a little bit of soap, put it in there, lube up the throttle a little bit. And then these are nice and squishy enough. I tried another grip last night and it didn't work, but you can see these go on nicely. It's a little bit fat, but you can see that grip went on nice. And this other side go on nicely too. There we go. Now I got the Scott grips where I want them. One thing that I forgot to record while wiring everything up is wiring the E-lock wire harness from the controller to the on-off switch that's on the plastic cover of the Razor dirt bike. Alright, this part is going to be a little bit confusing, but this is how you wire the headlight, tail lights, and everything up. In order to run a 12-volt headlight or tail light, you need one of these, a step-down transformer. So what I did was I tied into the indicator light. I could have put a harness on here, but I chose these quick connectors. So coming out of the controller, red and black wire is the indicator light. Then you have the black and white wires that go to the step-down transformer. This converts it from 36 or 48 volts down to 12 volts. The reason why I use this connector is this is the throttle. This wire is a throttle. It comes down and then I have the throttle connection. But in order to get the voltmeter to run, I need to get power from somewhere just upstream converting it. So I tied it into the power wire going to the step down transformer. So that gives me the 54 volts or voltmeter on the handlebars. Okay, so now coming out of the step down transformer, yellow is power, black is neutral or ground. This is 12 volts. So 12 volts comes in. So we'll follow it like a river. 12 volts comes up, goes into this connector. And on this connector, once again, I use this because I'm doing three-way splits, but out comes this red wire. This goes up to the switch. So here's the switch, that's the red wire. What comes out of the switch comes back down to this white wire. Now, this white wire, luckily enough, ended up in this mess. Usually I bring it down here, but the white wire goes to power the headlights. So when I turn this on, you can see everything turns on, including the headlight. Now, let's getting back on track. So the white wire comes out of the switch, and then I powered it to the power wire to the switch, and then this red wire coming out goes to these LED lights that you see here. Okay, so I tied all the LED lights into this connector to make it simple and easy to install. So that's how you do that. Now, going back to the headlight. So out of the headlight comes a black wire or the neutral wire. That wire comes down, and what I needed to do was I needed to run this into the step down transformer. So that's what you see here. The step down transformer goes back, or out of the black wire up to the black wire that goes to the headlight. So I also added this extra black wire that comes over, and I use that as the neutral wire for these LED light bars. So that's how you wire everything up. I'll have a pictorial below that might clarify. It is a little bit confusing, but just think of it. The power comes out, goes up to the switch, comes out of the switch, goes to the headlight, tail light, and then the black wire that comes out of the headlights and tail light needs to go back to the step down transformer. I got this MX500 running great. The plastics look great. I did make a little blunder. I put the headlight on the old number placard, and when I'm riding it bounces a lot. It's unmanageable when you're riding. This is the original number placard, so I'm gonna switch it out for the one that came with the bike. It's a little more sculpted and newer plastic, so I think that'll look better. I think I'm gonna go with this headlight. It'll be easily mountable. I think that'll look really cool, and it will use the screw that's already in the fork, so that will sit like that. I think it'll look really good and sharp, but that means I gotta take all the plastics off. The completed bike came out great, and I'm happy with the results. I hope you liked this video. Subscribe to my channel, and if you have a question, leave it in the comments below.